Yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. My name's Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Bennett Burkett. Watch on YouTube because I look cute today.
I look a little darling.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Jackson, I'm 12 hours away from bottle service.
That's right.
I cannot let people know where I'm going to be. But I do recall seeing Michael Jordan having drinks after a Cardinal game at the Westin. Was that 15-ish years ago?
Is that right?
And I recall that so many people heard that he was there that they just roped off his table. I think he was with Charles Oakley and a lady and another guy. And they couldn't do anything about it, and they just roped off the table.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I were to meet the GOAT, I would want to meet him like in an organic. I don't want to be like one of 1,000 people trying to crowd around him in a bar in St. Louis.
What would you say to him if you met him?
Oh, that's a good question right there, Tim. I would say, hello, Mr. Jordan. It's an honor to meet you. You are not only a role model to me, but so many young people out there, and I think what you do is great.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
And what he does, of course, is play 36 holes and gamble every day. And I agree with you, therefore.
That's great. I think his game was great. I'd ask him, what do you think about the death of the mid-range? And
that's what you would go with.
Well, yeah,
He'd probably excuse himself.
Ask him and Mello, and then see where he goes from there.
Wow, all right. So that's Jackson's conversation with Michael Jordan. Point being, when I'm out, they have to rope off the table as well.
Yeah. That's true. For similar reasons, right? Yeah. Incredible career.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Jackson, you've got the Friday six-shooter today.
I do.
And I'm anxious to see what you've got because the Cardinals restart.
Yeah.
We got the Open going on right now. Scotty Scheffler is 5 back of the leader, Shane Lowry. Lowry at 7 under. Scheffler is 2 under. Some guy who I can't imagine will be around when it's all said and done on Sunday, but if he is, God bless him. What's his name? I know his last name's Brown. I'd never heard of him. Is in second place. Then Justin Rose is at 4 under, and he's ahead of Horschel, Dean Burmester, and Scotty Scheffler.
Man.
What I would ask is this. Scotty Scheffler at 5 back. Is he still the favorite?
Yeah, you'd have to. Yes. Now, what I'll say also, how does Justin Rose make every top 10 at every single major?
Well, I don't think he does, so I think you're basing it on a false premise.
It seems like every major, like Justin Rose at the bottom of your screen, like he's not really in it, but he's somehow in the top 10 or 15.
Shot at Matt Kuchar out of nowhere.
Cooch. I love Matt Kuchar.
You love Matt Kuchar?
He's like Jordan tall. He's like Michael Jordan tall. Like 6'4".
He's kind of a random guy to love, especially as a 25 or 6-year-old.
Oh, he just always seems like the tour's dad. Like he's everyone's.
He's cute?
He's got a similar hair situation to me. And
no, his is worse. Your
Yeah,
hair situation's not bad.
Yeah, but he seems like everyone's like fun uncle. That's what I would say Matt Kuchar seems like. And you can say Cooch. It's like when Lars Newpark goes up. Newt.
J.D. Drew.
Woo.
Shane Lowry is plus 175 to win. Scotty Scheffler is second at plus 325 for the record. Those odds just dropped to plus 150. It's like CompuScore. All right, Jackson, what's the first question of the Friday six-shooter, a tradition unlike any other? Where are you going to go with this?
Question 1.
Jim Bowden? We saying Bowden or Bowden? Bowden? Bowden of The Athletic wrote about the 6 front offices under the most pressure and the ones under the least for the upcoming trade deadline. The Cardinals were not listed in either category.
I saw Jeff Passan write about this a week or two ago, and I was surprised that he didn't list the Cardinals in there either.
Not in either one, not in the least or most. I'd be very surprised if they were in the least pressure, but I was a little surprised to see that they weren't in the most.
I wonder on that. I know you have a question coming.
No,
I wondered when I saw Passan's article a couple weeks ago and now Bowden's, I wonder if the reason is if the guy in charge is, I don't think he's retiring, but leaving the position.
Yeah.
At the end of 25, then he's not really under pressure to lose his job.
Right.
That's my thinking through the fact that neither Jeff Passan or Jim Bowden put the Cardinals in there. Because that surprised me as well.
Yeah. I can't speak much to Passan's, but what I'll say about Bowden's is it was framed as front offices, not necessarily like individual GMs or president of baseball ops. Now, understanding that the figurehead for that would be John Mozeliak, so I would understand basing it off that, but I don't know if it's just front offices, just franchises, or if it's individuals. So I think that might play into it, but I see where you're coming from with that. How would you describe the temperature for the Cardinals brass ahead of the looming trade deadline? Also, do you agree with Mr. Bowden's assessment of the Cardinals? And what deadline over the last 10 years were they under the most pressure, for a little reference point?
Oh, God, last 10 years is tough. I guess we can say 2014. I can include 2014. It almost expires, but 2014 is what I would say, because the mindset then I think was different. But then that kind of goes against it, because if anything, when you win the World Series in 11, you're a win away from another pennant in 12. You win the pennant in 13. If anything, you have equity. The issue right now is the Cardinals do not have equity in the market.
Yeah.
They're coming off of a last-place finish, and they haven't won a series since 2019. So with that established, I would actually have to say that it's opposite. I was really surprised, and real pleasantly surprised, by the 2022 trade deadline. And I kind of view this one in a similar way, as far as what they need is similar to what they needed in 2022. I guess you can always say a team that fancies itself to be a competitor needs pitching. Rarely is a team set.
Yeah.
Like the Mariners are like a rare example. Not that the Mariners are, some powerhouse, but a team where you go, man, they actually might have too much pitching.
They have a stockpile.
So a team usually is going to, again, quote unquote, need pitching. But I really came out of that 2022 deadline surprised, specifically more by Montgomery. I was a big fan of his, and I thought he kind of was underappreciated in the Bronx. I expected Quintana to be live, and he did come over. And I liked also who they subtracted. I wasn't anti-Harrison Bader as a guy. I just thought like it wasn't going to happen here for him. And as long as he was on the team, he was going to keep getting trotted out there. So pressure-wise, God, this is my own thing. I would have loved to have seen him be more aggressive from a selling standpoint last year. I know I was saying this at this time last year. This was the time around last year where the Nolan Arenado trade discussion was dismissed locally for some real strange reason. Yeah. One of the more confusing things I've seen in my 25-year career here, that report was just dismissed because we didn't like it. Right. But I guess that's media in 2024 and people's interpretations. If I don't like it, it must not be true. But I don't know if... I don't feel like Cardinal fans feel like this is a great team, but they feel it's a gettable division, right? And they need to do something to show that they're not just going to rest on their laurels. Mm-hmm. I also think that the team, just because of the way that things are set up now, if you did have Gray as a good Sonny Gray, we'll see him tonight against the Braves. Granted, not the same Braves lineup that we thought it was going to be this year with the injuries they have. But if you get good Sonny Gray in October and you pair him with, take your pick of one of the more featured names out there, and Montgomery was not featured in 2022. That was kind of a surprise play that he was traded. That I think the Cardinals could make a run, even though I don't think that they're necessarily a great team. I didn't think the Phillies were great in 22, and I didn't think the Diamondbacks were great in 23. So if you get a 1-2 punch. So from that standpoint, I'm really intrigued to see what they wind up doing, because what they do will tell you a lot about how they feel about the team. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. It's a tell. It's like, well, we often reference 22 Cardinal trade deadline, but then you look in the division where the Brewers got rid of Josh Hader. That signals. And that played a role in the Cardinals winning the division. Yeah. Because the Brewers then fell off, and they legitimately fell off right from that point forward. And that was, I think, a week or two before the deadline. I think it was earlier in July. Your thoughts on the topic, 314-399-9646. It is the Air Comfort Service text line. Watch on the Air Alliance team studio cameras on YouTube. It's the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. It's Friday. That means we have the Friday six-shooter from Little Piddles, and that means he has 5 more questions coming your way. This is Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. It's brought to you by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton, Toyota. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you on the program. We are in the midst of this Friday six-shooter as baseball restarts, and the Open is underway as we speak in Scotland. What does Jackson have for us with question 2? I can't wait to hear it.
Question 2.
The Athletic did even more fine work today.
Yeah, I like that Athletic.
I do too. Shout out to JR. Shout out to everybody over at the Athletic. Katie Wu. This time involving our local ice hockey program. They were spitballing the idea.
You make it sound like it's like, like over at Chaminade.
Hey, shout out to Chaminade. Big summer for them. They were spitballing the idea of the best NHL team of each decade without a Hall of Famer. They decided on the blue note for the 2010s, with the only thing giving them pause being Petro. Would you describe a team as a let me rephrase that, Tim.
We got to be better reading. We have to be able to read.
It's the writing. It was poor writing on my part.
Well, we have to be able to write.
There we go. Would you describe that Blues team as a possible blueprint for teams to say they don't exactly need a superstar to find sustainable success, or is that more of a one-off, an outlier, not an expectation sort of situation? Does hockey lend itself to this style of roster construction more than other sports, and is Oiler great Petro a Hall of Famer?
Oiler great. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. You can't just and not to say they acknowledge it, so it's not like they're dismissing it, but that's certainly going to be a conversation. But with that said, I recall now he was, I realize in a sense he's a performer and he's also a Bruins fan, but I do remember Dave Portnoy of Barstool fame saying that the 2019 Blues will go down as one of the worst teams ever to win a Stanley Cup. So again, he was likely angry and doing
it's kind of his thing.
The thing.
Yeah.
With that said, I don't think that I'm sure other hockey fans might go, yeah, that's kind of what that team didn't really have, because your inclination is to go, that team had that. Yeah, I remember that team, like the team that won the year before in 2018.
2018.
I will give you 10-1.
VGK.
No. You said it was kind of like I was with the World Series of Poker. I'm like, this guy's saying with confidence he might have it. It doesn't matter. It's already
Capitals.
That's amazing, though. Yeah.
That was TJ Oshie, right? TJ Oshie?
That's correct.
Yes.
But I think more people would probably think of
Alexander Ovechkin.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Don Cherry.
Well, when guys play in the NHL for seemingly my entire lifetime,
I
can pick up on them.
So, there's your star there. So, with that all established, I think, if anything, you would look at on the blueprint for the 2019 Blues would be they would roll 4 lines. Much
physical,
less Trangelo. But as far as what they were able to do with the 4 lines, that was the thing that would wear teams down. And then the other thing that I think is the signature of that, as far as if you're going, give me and I'm not talking about as a St. Louisan or as a Blues fan, or even a Bruins fan or Sharks fan or Jets fan or Stars fan. I think as an observer of hockey, I think a lot of guys take your pick of whatever show on TNT or ESPN or your hockey podcast, what they would say about what the Blues did in April, May, and June that year. By the time those teams they were playing, and every series went a minimum of 6, and 2 of them went 7, their opponents were beat to hell.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Blues only lost 1 Game 6 that entire time, and they obviously won both of their Game 7s. Mm-hmm. That tells you something.
Right.
They wore teams down.
Yeah.
And so that speaks to the physicality. And then it also speaks to there wasn't a shift that the opponents could kind of take off because they were going to send out 3 butt asses. That was another signature of that team. So, yeah, it might not have been superstar laden. It certainly would never be compared to one of Crosby's teams or those 0-2 Red Wings we were talking about with Joey Vitale earlier this week. But it was a team that you couldn't take a shift off because they had all 4 lines firing. And if anything, you could make a case that the 4th line was oftentimes one of the more effective lines for the Blues. So that's something that I would take away from that.
Yeah, and then part of what I was saying also is like, do you think that hockey as a sport would lend itself to not having a superstar Hall of Fame caliber player on a team and still being successful more so than football, baseball, basketball?
I suppose so. I think certainly basketball. Basketball, you got to have one, right?
The only team I can think of in the 21st century would be the Pistons, but even they had Chauncey Billups. I mean, they had a bunch of really good players.
Shot at Ben Wallace out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of like 1 through 5, they were really, really good, but they didn't have
basketball. So we're agreeing in the basketball needs
yes,
it.
you need a star.
Usually, I don't know. I mean,
football, so many people on the team, so it's kind of hard to not have one.
But I would say it's rare for a team. It happens. I mean, Trent Dilfer being one of the great examples. Joe Flacco, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think everybody would agree Flacco's better than Dilfer.
For sure.
But with that all established, if anything, it's rare to not even have a quarterback.
Yeah, right.
Much less than take your pick of a wide receiver or on those Ravens teams, Ray Lewis, so somebody on defense. So yeah, I would say hockey probably lends itself more so. I also think, in fairness, this would be more of a Jackson comment, but I think if we're being honest, the Q rating for hockey players relative to the other 3 sports, in other words, the recognizability, for hockey fans, a player may be a star, but for the casual American sports fan, not Canadian, the player might be relatively unknown. But for hockey fans, like, no, that guy is sick. I think most people are well aware of Connor McDavid as sports fans. But then you go into Hyman or Draisaitl.
Yeah, Nathan McKernan maybe.
I think Nathan McKernan would be in a higher Q rating category. You see what I'm saying? What I'm saying is these guys for hockey fans, I mean, they're like, oh my God, the Oilers power play, look what they've got out there. But for the casual fan, it's not as like casual American sports fan could probably name half of the NFL starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Agreed.
And I don't know if they'd be able to name the top 5 scorers over the last 5 years in the NHL.
Right.
So therefore the recognizability. By the way, Rory McIlroy just got an 8 on a hole in his 11 over par.
Oh, little snowman.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough.
I was anxious to see if he would have a bounce back after the U.S. Open. Does not appear to be that way. He most likely will not be sticking around this weekend. Jackson, what is your next question?
I'll share one more thought I have on this hockey thing.
Yeah, anytime you get a chance to give a hockey opinion, people tune in.
Well, I think part of it, too, on what we were just talking about is I think hockey, more so than any of the 3 other major North American sports, is the most team-oriented. Like,
to me, I say without question, as somebody who can't even skate and tried to learn.
You need all the guys on the ice. I was going to number it, but don't know what you do with the goalie. 6 guys on the ice?
That's right.
Right, but there's only 5.
Really lost that momentum.
But only 5 guys are skating around. So the 6 guys on the ice, and then as soon as they're gassed, they got to come on. And it's all about passing, getting in front of shots. So I'd say more so than anything, hockey would lend itself because of the team-oriented nature of the game. And it's another thing I respect about hockey, just missing me a little on the gameplay.
It's as close to a selfless endeavor as you will find in sport. That's what I would say about it.
My next question that I'll ask here, Tim, is we touched on something the other day briefly, and I'd like to return to it. We talked about athletes 23 and younger, and we both agree that they get more chances to shine.
You're not going to start ranking cute guys again.
No, well, people want it when compared to 10 or 20 years ago. Why do you think that is? Is that a reflection of the pro leagues or the talent pool of younger players?
Why do I think what is? I'm sorry, I missed.
Okay. Athletes 23 or younger, and we both agree that they get more chances to shine than compared to 10 or 20 years ago. Why do you think that is? And do you think that is a reflection of the pro leagues, the talent pool of younger players, or is it a snowball effect scenario where the more and more young players who produce, the more likely other young guys will get chances?
Jackson, I like the question. I have 2 main. If this were Steve Harvey's Family Feud, this would be number 1 and number 2 answers.
Show me potato salad.
That's right. Number 1, organizations, and I'm not even talking about professional, I would say college as well, are more data-driven. And what the data shows them is it's not only effective to have younger players, it's more cost effective to have younger players.
Certainly in baseball.
That's an outlier when we're talking college sports, but that's just I feel like the NBA's gotten way younger too over the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm like talking about like the cost effective nature of it. Like you're still got to pay young guys a lot. In baseball, you can avoid that.
But 20 years ago in baseball, you saw guys now for separate reasons with performance-enhancing drugs, but in their late 30s, still raking or throwing hard, as the case might be. I mean, Roger Clemens was not a young man when he started Game 7 of the 2004 NLCS here against the Cardinals. So you have that, and then I also think one of the pieces of the equations for some organizations and even some colleges is the marketability of players. And so what you have now that you didn't have 20 years ago and you didn't have much of 10 years ago is social media in which players can create a brand.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I would say one of the most recognizable players in golf is Max Homa. He doesn't have a major championship. If anything, he's acknowledged he's struggled at majors, but he has a great social media following and also a personality that makes him a hell of a guest on podcasts. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, Paul Skeens is sick. He didn't get to be the all-star starter because of who he's, you know, going out with as an LSU gymnast.
Right.
But the crossover effect increases the recognizability. Again, the fact that he's with Livy Dunn doesn't make him, you know, strike out 10 MFers and go 7 innings throwing no hitters. That's not the deal. But as far as recognizability, it plays a role in it. Travis Kelce's a hell of a lot more popular now than he was 2 years ago, and he was already a Super Bowl champion and Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. Yeah. So you have these factors, and I realize I'm citing two guys who are, you know, going out with two super prominent females. One is an athlete, one is one of the most well-known global entertainers. But either way, people are able to build their brand. Bryson DeChambeau is a really good example here as of late with building a brand. So I think that factors in for teams. It also can perhaps play a negative role if some guy's an ass on social media, Antonio Brown, that organizations would want to stay away. So I think that if you're younger and that's been a part of your life throughout your life, to just hold up your phone and tell people where you are or give a take, you know, you don't think anything of that. Yeah. I think that has made people more aware and fans more excited if a player is drafted or picked up by their organization because they're familiar with him because of social media. There's my reasons. And by the way, they're both right. Yeah, I think that they're both spot on. Something else I'll add, and it's something we often talk about when we talk about youth sports, that I think is a contributing factor to why we're seeing more and more young athletes. And it can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think kids specialize so early in sports. Like it's much more rare nowadays for a kid to say, I play baseball, football, and basketball. Usually not the case. Usually once they get to a certain point in high school, they pick one or another. Especially if you're playing football, you're probably not also playing basketball and other sports because it's likely to get hurt. I think part of that, especially when it comes to something like baseball, hockey, when you're only playing that year round, as compared to 20 years ago when guys would play 2-3 different sports all the way up until they graduated high school, you're just locked in a lot more on that sport. You're more used to the grind. Better. Yeah, and you're more used to the grind. You're more comfortable in that. Yeah, exactly. That arena because you are better. That's a good observation. That'll be answer number 3. Yep. Well, we got my 3. First 2 are right. Yeah, and they're A, B. Mine is like C. Probably like J. I'm J. J you go by J now? No. I like that. You said J for Jackson. You smiled at the camera. Yeah, you know, I'm folksy. You are folksy. Dan Jansen, you got sideways with him. This guy, he had to like what I've brought in so far. He says, how about the 14-year-old pro soccer player? Debut in MLS this week, right? Yeah, and then, geez. What was his name again? It was Kevin? Cavan? How do you pronounce that? That sounds, it was Cavan for sure. I can't pronounce the last name. Okay. But a week and a half ago, we saw Lamine Yamal from Spain, just turned 17, win the Euros and score. With one of the sickest goals you'll see in the semifinals against Parlez-vous Français? Very much. And soccer, they have a long history of really young players being very, very good and coming up quickly. Bishan about sports says, I feel like Tim can skate. Shorter guy, low center of gravity, and great athletic build. Well, I mean, so many of those things are accurate outside of, I just didn't learn to skate at a young age. And Bishan about sports, I appreciate it. To be fully transparent, 2 reasons why I'm gonna put the brakes on the skating thing. Number 1, I have a friend of mine who's a really good golfer, better player than I am, who was with his kids skating. He was learning to skate as well, and he broke his fall with his wrist, and his wrist has never been the same. And I would just... Yeah. That would... Yeah, no good. God, I'd have to go back to playing poker all the time instead of golf. And then secondarily, and this was an observation by a friend of mine whose son played at a high level with some names that hockey fans would recognize without question. And he said, I always felt my son loved the fact that hockey was his thing, and I didn't, have any input or real knowledge of, to be able to say, hey, you do this or that.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, that's his thing.
something to
I
that.
only do it because I have a 2-year-old and I get the sense that he might want to get out there and follow his brother around skating. And I'm like, oh, then I'll go out there with him.
Right.
But even the one time I tried to go out there skating with my son, he was like lapping me and laughing as he'd go by. And I'm like, God, this guy's 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like holding on to buckets, trying to stay up. And candidly, let's be honest, I'm too big of a star to look like that.
Right.
Like if St. Louis's TMZ saw that, my DMs would slow down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Thank you.
it'd be like Twitter trending like Timmy Skates as well.
Timmy Skates.
Hashtag Timmy Skates.
Yeah, and it's me with a bucket falling, all cattywampus.
Right, yeah. You're infallible, so why would you? You can't have that.
Thank you.
Can't
Thank
have
you.
that. I
Thank you
respect
for saying it because I didn't want to say it. Can you imagine how much NBA we'd talk during the doldrums if we had a team? Then a YouTube ad popped up, so I missed who sent that in. But it's Calamity Jane with Sandra Bullock. I wasn't even aware of that film.
There was Gal Gadot.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. Well, either way, Jackson, I guess they're just throwing you a bone.
It would be awesome.
Talking NBA at this time, though? I mean, really? I mean,
Free agency.
This is a kind of a quiet time.
Yeah, you'd probably already have gotten free agents signed, traded. Right. I don't think you'd have. I would be talking about it, but
you'd be talking about the association. Justin Thomas, who was at the top of the leaderboard yesterday, just chipped in, but he went out in 45 this morning on the front 9. So he is now 5 over after chipping in for a birdie. What a mess. JT just can't put 4 rounds together right now, Jackson.
It kind of stinks that this weekend is like the best weather weekend of the summer.
Weather in St. Louis. For those of you who live in the St. Louis metropolitan area, the weather over the next 10 days for being mid to late July.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, just phenomenal.
It's glorious. But if you're trying to watch the Open, it's tough.
Yeah, I know. Because, usually it's like, okay, it's hotter than hell. I'll get up and I'll watch the Open. But
I love a little British golf while enjoying my coffee.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Just so Ledoux. It's like, I don't really care for American golf.
I do. Oh my God, the Masters. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I understand, but you prefer anything that's not American, is what I've noticed.
Traditionally.
God almighty. Your thoughts, 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line. And then, of course, we have the YouTube chat where you can see a hat that Jackson's wearing that people really are enjoying. I saw some compliments on your hat. It's fine. I'm not anti it. I saw that people were complimenting it. That's more what I was observing.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Yeah, I took a bold chance on this one.
Where'd you get it, baby? Where'd you get it?
Lids.
Yeah? You go to Lids often?
Well, I sent the guy. I sent him a couple.
You've got a butler.
He brought back options, and I picked this one.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I like. I like. It's a snapback, big snapback guy.
Yeah, I'm snapback season.
Yeah, I have a weird head that doesn't fit any of the sizes.
Oh, yeah. So now we're gonna bring up my weird head.
I brought up my weird head.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, Well,
you wear fitted caps.
I guess, but like one side of it looks like a ramp.
They've been taken in.
Yeah, exactly. I have to go get alterations. Oh, really? Because your length, your inseam is 24? No, because my head's concave. Yeah, so that's awkward.
Yeah,
what are you here for? Your pant? No, this hat.
Yeah, you have my navy blue cardinal cap over there.
Exactly, which should be worn on the road at all times, by the way. All right, Jackson, we got 2 more segments, which means we've got 3 or 4 more questions on the Little Piddles Friday 6-shooter. This is Balloon Party. It's 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The All-Star break has concluded, and the Cardinals are back in action tonight, heading down to Atlanta as they take on the Braves. Sonny Gray on the mound for your St. Louis Cardinals. First pitch tonight, 6:20 p.m. In NBA news, the Clippers and Jazz agreed to a sign-and-trade deal involving Russell Westbrook. The teams announced Thursday, and sources told ESPN's Woj that the former MVP is expected to join the Nuggets after Utah waives him and buys out the remainder of his contract. That was another SportsCenter update, and it was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back to Balloon Party 101 over at ESPN. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. It's 10:41 in St. Louis, and Jackson still has 4 questions to go on his Friday 6-shooter here. Jackson, let's see what you got. I don't know. I'm anxious to see.
Hoping I'll have 4 questions. I think I only have... I don't know what my deal is on this. But I got one for you right now, Tim. I got it for you real nice.
Question 4.
All right. Dan Caesar wrote in STL today about the Cardinals' poor TV ratings up to this point in the season. The major highlights of the piece included a local rating down 25% over the same stage last year, which ended as the Cardinals' worst-rated season in records that date to 1990. We have also seen a consistent downturn ever since the pandemic. When looking at the root cause of the issue, do you chalk up the down performance on the field relative to how good it was fairly recently, or do you think a bigger factor is trouble with access? We have discussed what the pandemic did to the mindset of some baseball fans, and we have talked a lot about the comings and goings of the TV situation. How long before we reach a point of no true return?
Jackson, I love the question. I think the article in STL today is a fascinating one. It surprised me. Really took me aback. Last year, it's like, okay,
right,
they're bad.
Yep.
This year, again, anytime we talk about the Cardinals, I don't think there's anybody, and I guess if they wind up having, winning the division, there'll be people, I said all along, because I've been doing this 25 years and I know the song and dance. I don't think there's anybody watching this team going, this is a great team. That doesn't mean that is a bad team. But I don't think anybody's going, this is a great team. Mm-hmm. With that said, I don't think anybody's saying this is a bad team either. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
I think people think it's either an average team to a good team.
Yeah. NL Central good.
NL Central good. But as Dan Caesar of the Post-Dispatch writes, and something that certainly if you're doing Cardinal spin, you point out this arbitrary date of May 12th that gets cited, but they have been one of the best teams in the game and the best team in the National League since that arbitrary date. But either way, that's 2 months of a sample size. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that, I had no idea about it until reading the article this morning before coming into Hubbard Radio St. Louis. So what I think, and this is straight thesis, and Dan Caesar of the Post-Dispatch does bring up the saga with Diamond Sports, parent company of Bailey's, and their brilliant app that a second grader created and they released before testing. Seriously, what are we doing here? This is $1 billion operation, and that's what you sent out there. I'm telling you, someday somebody like Marchand or it's the other guy who likes the WNBA a lot. No, Deich.
Oh, Richard Deich.
Yeah, will dig into that app because that's a whole story.
Yeah.
But with that all said, here is what I think a big issue is for the game, even though I know that there was another article about, not in St. Louis per se, but ratings being up and attendance.
Yeah, just pulled that one up.
Being up around the game. But not every market is dealing with Bailey's.
Right.
Okay? What I think has happened over the last 4 years is because of the pandemic, and then when there was no baseball, and then combined with people not having the game and going, oh, I don't really miss it that much. Then going, oh, now I got to switch providers again. And people going, I'm done with it. And I found I didn't miss it. That the part of a summer evening that was essentially a tradition, almost like a Pavlov's dog kind of reaction. It's 7 o'clock. It's June in St. Louis. I'm going to click on Fox Sports Midwest, pre-Bailey's, and watch the game. I think for a lot of people, it's kind of like, I don't really miss it.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a problem. That's what I was talking about in this offseason. I said there's some anger, but there's more apathy. And to me, apathy is worse than anger. So with what's going on here, this one surprises me. You show me that data last year, I'd go, well, yeah,
right.
They're a last place team. It's not going to happen. They're clearly selling. They should be selling. I understand it. It's like getting a quote from an ex-wife or an ex-employee. Oh, a last place team has bad ratings.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sky's blue.
Right. But in this case, this is a team that is certainly within shouting distance of winning the division, albeit it's a crap division, but they're in the playoffs. And over the last 2 months, like unlike the Yankees, who have a very good record, but they've been fumble-effing around here the last couple of weeks, this team's been trending over the last 2 months.
Yep.
It's really surprising. This one really surprises me. Were you surprised by it?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly, like you said, like last year, no, I wouldn't have. I would have certainly seen a little bit of a rebound. Like it wouldn't have surprised me if the numbers stayed consistent, but to see a 25% decrease since last year, like in the same period.
There is no way, at least I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm off on this. There is no way the Cardinals aren't concerned by that. I have no idea how you can't be concerned about that. And yes, they were playing the Cubs this past weekend, and I know that at times it was hotter than hell, but it wasn't like that thing was packed.
No, it was not.
So that's, when people are talking about attendance and television ratings when the team was bad, I'd go, well, yeah, I mean, I understand it. But this is really surprising. I know the Cardinals are in Atlanta this weekend. As we were talking about earlier in the show, Jackson, the forecast is phenomenal. If they were in St. Louis and you had the announced attendance, I pay no attention to that. You can see it with your own eyes if you're one of the people choosing to watch. You know whether or not there's a real crowd there.
Yep.
And if you had a crowd like that this weekend, you could not use the weather as the excuse. They also have a weird spot with the way that the ballpark was built that you can just be blazing, and it just depends on the time of day. Depending on the time of day, if you're on the third baseline, you're in a spot, and depending on the time of day, during the summer at night, you can get hit hard on the right field side of things.
Yeah, I've been victim of that. It's brutal.
So that's a spot.
Yeah.
But that's talking about attendance. This is the data on the ratings, and 25% down. Even if you're going, I just don't think they're that good. I understand that. But it's not like they have been. Does it speak to the team as boring? Does it speak to you're just not as interested in baseball? For those of you who are listening right now, I'm sure plenty of you are sports fans, but might go, yeah, I'm not as interested in it. For me, I keep talking about why I'm not as interested as I was, and that's because I feel like they've watered down the playoffs, which therefore dilutes the value of the regular season.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, they'll get in the playoffs, and then we'll figure out what happens. And if they're in the NLDS, I guess I'll get into it then, but it won't feel like the kind of reward that it used to be. I doubt that that's a factor in this. I feel like I'm kind of on an island with my playoff thing and how many teams get in the stupid-ass format. But 25% down for a team that's, 5 days ago was 3.5 back, and they're 4.5 back right now. They're in a playoff spot. I don't like they're in a playoff spot because I kind of feel like we're getting close to college football coaches, and we're going to a bowl,
right? Because
going to a bowl doesn't mean a damn thing relative to what it meant 30 years ago. Going to the playoffs in baseball doesn't mean the same thing as it meant even 10 years ago. I'm really surprised by that. I sense that people aren't as passionate about it right now, but to see a 25% decrease in the ratings really surprises me.
Yeah, I think something like this, I think this is an example, especially with baseball, not just the Cardinals with baseball, is like the culture changing, the sports culture changing, and what people really want to see evolving in the sport of baseball evolves as much as it can, but they can't, you can't all of a sudden start throwing up alley-oop dunks in baseball. It's just not going to happen. So I think that this might have been brewing for some time, and then the pandemic broke the habit. Like where you used to be like, the Cardinals game, I'll flip it on. Once the pandemic habit broke the habit, and like you were saying, people, when they came back, were like, I didn't really miss it all that much. My dad, who grew up in a small town in southern Illinois a long time ago, talked about how it was a front porch thing. It's 7 o'clock. Everybody's on their front porch in the small town and listening to the Cardinal game. That's just what you did. It was a little
good. It's a Norman Rockwell, Jackson.
Exactly, a little slice of America, and that's what made it. But nowadays, people don't have that same relationship to the Cardinals. It's not their 7 o'clock friend. It doesn't join them for dinner in a way.
Getting a lot of good texts on this topic, Jackson.
Yeah.
TV deal is the problem. People moving to Lake St. Louis, Cottleville, and Wentzville is another. What's that? I don't follow that. What's that got to do with ratings? Am I missing something?
What's your beef with Cottleville?
Well, you don't like it, but I'm surprised the texture. Oh,
untrue. Yeah, I'm moving a lot of my businesses to Cottleville.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, little tax shelter.
Good for you. I didn't even know that was going on. Once it left YouTube TV, it broke my habit of watching every game. It's from the 314.
That habit breaking, man.
See, I'm a YouTube TV guy, but then I switched to AT&T because that we needed the internet. We were having issues with other people, and so popped up. Got some. We're DirecTV now for the stream because that's where I can watch the Cardinal game.
Right.
But I love the YouTube TV interface.
That's great.
And so I keep it and just light money on fire. But my wife, I think it was a couple nights ago, she goes, I didn't even know we had DirecTV. I said, well, I got to have it to watch the games. I need to be able to do it. But we just still use YouTube TV. But yeah, I think there are a number of people. I mean, we've gotten so many people talking about the apps. That's where a lot of these are. TV ratings are down because Bally's has made it impossible to watch when you can't watch the Cardinals on TV. It causes you not to want to go to the baseball park and see them live. This is a tragic death spiral, and until Bally's makes it accessible on television, it will continue. That's from the 618. I love that text. I think it's right on target. I think it's a cause and effect thing. The lack of buzz. See, it's not a sports thing. People then one of the like crutch things, and I know I'm late for a break, but F it, I got to go here. One of the people would say, "Oh, well, there's so many other options." That's like if you are in the death spiral, you do that. I don't think people are. And the Blues haven't been good the last 2 years. That's you go to Enterprise Center and they're not in the playoff mix. And you go, God, the building's still not only packed, but energetic.
Electric. That's
not it. I think what this person texted in is the cause and effect of the television situation, is people aren't as invested in the product. Therefore, they don't develop what they feel like interest in players. Therefore, the team kind of becomes, well, the team's boring, but it's because you're not necessarily watching, and then therefore you're not enthused to go downtown. And then plenty of people, we get texts here oftentimes about their fear of going downtown, the cost of going downtown, the expense of it. And it is a spiral. That is so accurate. It is a real problem. This is not, I mean, Bally's is the messenger, so to speak, but it's not Bally's to fix. Bally's is doomed.
Right.
This is a baseball issue. Bally's does not carry the rights for all games, all teams. The Cardinals are unfortunately in this deal, and 13 other teams, I think, are
yeah,
Bally's.
That sounds right.
It's a baseball issue, though. The blackout thing is ridiculous. Like, if I want to watch City play, and I'm like out wherever, about to dinner with my family or something like that, and it's not on the televisions, you know, I can just put it on my phone and have it sitting on the table so I can see it. And it's 2 clicks.
Yep.
The fact that you can't do that and the blackout restrictions. Now, I realize it's there, but you have to be a certain subscriber to a certain entity. And then on top of it, it's not consistent. Right. Sometimes it's an Apple TV game. Sometimes it's a Roku game. Oh, this is a Fox game. Where the hell is it? Yeah. I mean, I'm as a golf fan. It's like we're cutting off Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth's round yesterday so we can, we're going to switch it over to Peacock. It's just asinine. This isn't only limited to baseball, but baseball is the one, specifically the Cardinals in St. Louis, that's suffering the most, and it truly is a death spiral. It is mandatory for the game, but also specified on the Cardinals that they get this tended to ASAP. 10:54 in St. Louis. This is Balloon Party. James Carlton, Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, my insurance agent online at carltoninsurance.net. Got an email from a TMA listener this morning in the 8 o'clock hour who said his insurance agent was retiring and State Farm set him up with someone else. And he goes, you know what, this is the time for me to check on James Carlton because I listen to the shows and I've heard Tim talk about James Carlton. I got to figure out if this thing's the real deal. And sure enough, he makes the switch, talks with the people in the office, and he raves about the experience he's had with James Carlton. It's no surprise because I have been a client of James's for the last 5 years, and I'm not just saying this because he's an advertiser. It's the truth. It is such a pleasant experience to know that when you have an issue that requires you talking to your insurance agent, and obviously that means it's a significant issue, that you've got the peace of mind that you're dealing with the best, and the best is James Carlton. Online at carltoninsurance.net. He's in Webster Groves. The number's 314-961-4800. It's James Carlton at the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. Good morning. Grant just came in here with some hockey questions for us. You might be surprised to hear Jackson didn't get any right, and I got a couple right.
Yeah. Well,
He's
he's
had some good questions.
Grant is really good at what he does.
Good morning, Grant. All right, it's 10:59. I was on the clock, too. Like, I broke at the right time for the first break.
You did. Can't
That
confirm.
TV thing gets me going.
I
It gets
know.
the people going, too.
Yeah, it gets me going.
It really frustrates me. Again, and my main reason for why these things bother me is the reason I got into sports broadcasting, so you have this to blame, is my love for the game of baseball, in particular in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And loving a regular season pennant race battle, which is now just gone.
Right.
And then, now how the television situation has made it such that it's such a pain.
Yeah.
And I'm just so stunned that the game is going the wrong direction with regard to accessibility. I saw somebody text in, like, the NFL is super popular, but what if the NFL would only be available on, like, a variety of different apps? What would happen?
People would figure it out.
They would still find it, but it would impact overall.
Sure.
And that's essentially what baseball's got going. But baseball doesn't have the equity with the public that the NFL does. And so you've got a real issue. I truly believe, and I don't think it's a hope thing, I believe that they will fix this, and it's going to be great within a couple of years. But for the time being, this plays a role in that article you cited from the Post-Dispatch this morning with the 25% decrease in television ratings. All right, time for us to go. BK and Ferrari are coming up next. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday with Balloon Party and at 7 a.m. with TMA. For Jackson Bennett Burkett, I'm Timothy Michael McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel.